Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sharon Noble, director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. We'll talk to Sharon right after this.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, you were saying a lot of U.S. states now are looking at legislation that will allow people to keep their analog meters. And also, contrary to a lot of the myths, there is no shortage of analog meters to install.
That's correct. Many states already have analogs as an option for an additional fee in some states, for free in others. Right now, there are bills before several states, including Massachusetts, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas, where consumers would be allowed to keep their existing analog meters. And included in these bills are that they should be allowed to keep their analog meters at no additional cost. More and more people are discovering that there are major problems, as we've been discussing over these many months, which include exposure to the radiation, invasion of privacy, and the fire issue, which are three of the major ones. And people are beginning to say that they do not want to give up their analog meters. Also, the analog meters are so much more reliable and last so much longer. So in the long run, it's very, very difficult to understand why allowing the analogs to be kept would not be considered a reasonable option even here in British Columbia.
How much are British Columbians charged every month to keep their analog?
Right now, British Columbians who want to keep their analogs, and it's only for a temporary basis, it's not permanently, they're paying $32.40 a month. And that's even if the meters are not read. Supposedly, this cost is the cost for reading the meters. But this is hard to justify when these are the highest rates anywhere in North America. Even Fortis charges much less. And people are being allowed to keep their analogs or, in some places, to have the transmitters turned off. In British Columbia, having your transmitter turned off is the only permanent option that is being allowed. And even that is, for that option, people have to pay $20 a month.
$20 not to have something. $32.40 to keep old technology so you don't have to go through the cost of replacing it. Is there any chance to appeal these, I would call them almost extortionary fees?
The only way that we're able to appeal is through the class action lawsuit. There is, at this point, there is no other way to appeal it. We have gone to the BC Utilities Commission, but of course the BC Utilities Commission is driven by the government to a large degree. The BC Utilities Commission was given absolutely no authority for any oversight except for fees. And when the BC Hydro presented these outlandish fees, BCUC really just went along with it. When you look at the information that was provided to justify the fees 3 years ago, there really isn't a whole lot of hard evidence. And when you look at the vast majority of places in the U.S. and Canada, the fees are generally closer to about $10 a month on average, but there are still a lot that are charging nothing. You know, in our initial rates and our fee structure, we're paying to have our meters read by people coming to the house. We're already paying for this service. And many people who have smart meters are having the smart meters read manually. Many of the smart meters are not functioning yet. So they're doing no additional work to read an analog that they wouldn't do to read a transmitter a smart meter whose transmitter is turned off, or those smart meters that are not working. Yet those of us with analogs, I believe, are subsidizing the other costs for reading these other meters. It's unfair, and it's punitive. It is extortive, Jim. You're absolutely right, because what they're telling people is that you've got to pay this outlandish fee to keep your safe meter. And many people, sadly, are having to give in. They just can't afford it anymore. $32 a month. That's a lot of money. Most people many people do not pay that much for their electricity.
Sharon, I would say this is almost the same as going to a service station, gassing up your car, and then they charge you an extra $32.40 for the right to read the meter, in other words, the gasoline pump, to see how much gasoline you had pumped out.
It's a close comparison. It is unconscionable, and I just do not understand why the politicians haven't jumped all over this. A couple of times John Horgan and Adrian Dix have mentioned it. They say that they believe it's too high, but saying it once or twice is not enough. We've got to get something going here, and now is the time to do it. The NDP is already sending out letters asking for people to contribute to their campaign. Now is the time to go to the MLAs and say, look we'll support you on the condition that you come out strongly and you work to get these fees removed and you work to help us gain the right to keep analog meters. If people do not want their homes to burn down, if they don't want to have to worry about their homes burning down, or they don't want to have to worry about their health or their privacy, we should be allowed to keep analog meters. Let's make the politicians work for us if they want our vote.
Well, what about the constitutional right to safety of person? I mean, that's why we have supervised injection sites in Vancouver. That's why we have medicinal marijuana, because the Supreme Court of Canada has said you have the right to security of person. If you believe something is harmful or something is good for you, you have the right to either not use it or the right to use it.
You're absolutely right. That's under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 7. And that is the basis of the class action lawsuit that's been brought. It still hasn't been certified. We still haven't heard word one from the judge about it, but that is the basis for that class action lawsuit. That section says explicitly that no government or government agency has the right to force someone to use something that they believe to be dangerous. Yet Hydro and this government seem to believe that none of the laws apply to them. None of the laws. Look at the way that they're flouting the Electrical Safety Standards Act by putting something on our home that hasn't been certified to be safe, by putting something that is not certified to be safe into a device, the meter base, that is certified. And they're going to be sitting here fighting with insurance companies and with people when fires occur. When people get sick because of the radiation, we've got a right to say no. We do not want these on our homes. Yet nobody's standing up for us.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Unbelievable harmony, spectacular performance, the ultimate tribute to the Everly Brothers and Simon & Garfunkel. Bird Dog and the Vintage Electric Band coming to Mission, White Rock, West Vancouver. Buy online and save at ontourtickets.com.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble. Sharon, you think one of the indications that all these RFs, radiation from microwaves and so on, can be harmful and actually hurt physical objects is that BC Hydro is now replacing its concrete poles with wooden poles.
That's right. Now, I cannot say 100% that the only factor that is causing these metal poles to have to be replaced far shorter than they should. Their expected lifespan is supposedly like 50 years. Some of these poles haven't been up that long at all, 20 years, 25 years at most, and they're having to be torn down and they're being replaced with wooden meters. Many people have seen
Wooden
that when
poles.
the concrete poles have been taken down, that the rebar inside is completely rusted and completely corroded. There's a scientist in Quebec, his name is Dr. Andrew Mikrowski, and he has done studies showing that exposure to wireless radiation from cell towers, from smart meters, things like this, accelerates corrosion of metal, whether it's on bridges, whether it's in rebar in our homes, whether it's in rebar on the poles that Hydro and Telex and those people have. And we believe that this is one of the reasons why these poles are having to be removed and replaced at millions and millions of dollars sooner than they should be. And that's why Hydro is putting up wooden poles, because these poles will last a lot longer.
That really seems to fly in the face of logic, doesn't it? That wood would last longer than concrete with rebar?
Well, if you've got something that's there all day, in addition to the electrical current flowing through the poles, from the transmission lines and everything, and look at all the stuff they're putting on poles now. They don't just hold up the line. They've got transmitters on them. They've got all sorts of transmitters. They've got these collectors. They've got all these other devices that they're putting on here, these microcells and things that are being put on. That's a lot of radiation that 15 years ago, 20 years ago, was not in our environment. Our environment has changed a lot over the last few years. Wood will last much longer in this type of environment. But if it's happening to bridges, it's happening to buildings, those things are going, and poles, other pipes that are under the ground, a lot of the infrastructure is going to have to be replaced far sooner than was expected at, a significant cost because of this, quote, convenience that we're all so addicted to.
Well, it seems to be this drive to get rid of, quote, unsightly wires. You must have wireless speakers now for your TV set. Wireless this, wireless baby monitors. Don't dare have a wire. What are other countries doing in the face of all this research that seems to indicate that microwave radiation is not good for us? You mentioned Italy.
Many of the countries have far lower levels that are allowed than Canada. Canada, UK, and the U.S. are among the highest in the world. Health Canada refuses to acknowledge that there's any danger at all. The provincial government, under the head of Dr. Perry Kendall and the provincial health officers that work with him, refuse to acknowledge anything. But meanwhile, many countries, including of all places, India, China, Russia, and there are many others, allow a mere fraction of the RF exposure. They also are, for instance, Italy is now laying fiber optic cable for its smart grid. Italy has never allowed wireless transmission for the smart grid. It has been using the power lines, but it's now laying fiber optic cable right up to homes, and it's going to be using it for the smart grid. And the strange thing is that TELUS is spending, I think I saw a figure, and I can't remember what it was, but it was in the billions. It's spending a lot of money putting fiber optic cables right up to homes, which will be used, I believe, for internet, for television, for possibly phones, and they probably will be using other companies to use it as well. Why can't our smart grid use the fiber optic cable? Fiber optic cable doesn't radiate. It doesn't emit dangerous signals and pulses like wireless radiation does. And it's also faster and much more secure. It's not as easily hacked, so there's so many advantages to having fiber optic cable both in homes and in schools, by the way.
Well, of course, one is using electrical radiation, and of course, you don't want to turn into the Hulk, do you? Or Godzilla. They were all blamed on radiation, weren't they? Meanwhile, fiber optic cables transmit light.
Yeah. Fiber optic cable has been around for a long time, and it's very, very efficient. This is one of the reasons why people are so upset about Wi-Fi being used in schools. There's really no reason for it. Many schools already have fiber optic cable for the internet, and it carries data so much more quickly than Wi-Fi does, and it's so much more reliable than Wi-Fi is. Yet the schools are being pushed by the corporations to use Wi-Fi and disregard the fiber optic cable. And parents are being given a story saying that, this is 21st century education, as if Wi-Fi is the significant thing about education. It's not. Why is it better for kids to be able to be irradiated just so that they can carry their laptops or their tablets or whatever from room to room? There are facilities where they can plug them in and use them wirelessly. Wired. They can wire into a fiber optic cable very easily and use it much more efficiently. And in the long run, it's cheaper. There are many advantages to fiber optic cable over wireless. It's just that it's cheaper for the corporations to use wireless.
You mentioned a teacher has retired due to their exposure to Wi-Fi in the classroom.
Yes. In fact, she's not the only one being affected, but she's one of the first ones here in British Columbia to speak out. She has written to the BC Teachers Federation. She sent an article to their magazine in hopes that it will be published. She has been made sensitive by exposure to Wi-Fi in schools, and she was disabled for a period of time before she was forced to retire. And sadly, there are many teachers in the same boat. They are disabled and unable to work. The school boards refuse to accommodate. I know that there's a teacher in Victoria here I've spoken to a few times who is desperate to get back to work. He has been classified as an excellent teacher. He is very dedicated to his students, but he has become so sensitive that he cannot teach in a school with Wi-Fi. And he's asked if he could please be moved to a school where they use wired access to Internet. And the school board will not move him, even though there are schools in Victoria that are still wired. Not many, but there are a few. We've got a lot of good teachers who are unable to do their work in their profession, and it's a shame. And if this is happening to the teachers, it's happening to the children as well. The teacher who wrote this article is very concerned about what's happening to the children in the classroom. The parents are not being told. Most parents have no idea that this Wi-Fi is potentially dangerous for their children. No information is being given, and when parents complain, they're told that they have no choice. You must keep your kids in school or else keep them at home and teach them there. It's a very disturbing situation because there are children now who go home with massive headaches, migraines, can't sleep, have nosebleeds, develop rashes, and if they stay home, they lose contact with their friends. Their social aspect of going to school is a very important one. And many parents aren't able to homeschool. They're working or they're not capable of doing it. What does this mean for the children? They have no choice but to go back into an environment that is making them sick. And that's what this teacher is saying. And there are teachers and teacher unions across Canada now who are speaking out about this, demanding that the precautionary principle be followed. There are enough studies, thousands of studies, showing that this radiation is dangerous, especially for children, and especially on a prolonged basis. These children are sitting before these high-powered Wi-Fi modems that are sending out pulsing signals that are hitting their poor little bodies all day, every school day. And there is no chance that they escape it if they're going to school. And parents have a right to know that this is happening. And parents, if they know, will be joining the teachers in asking that they have fiber optic cables in the schools. You have a good option that is safe and that is cheap. It should be done.
Sharon, your newsletter published an article calling wireless radiation the tobacco of the 21st century. Can you explain?
Yep. It sure is. In fact, I'm not the one who coined the phrase. There are quite a few scientists that did. And in this particular article, RF is being compared to asbestos. As you know, Canada is still one of the few countries in the world that is still selling asbestos, if you can believe it. And just like asbestos, RF can't be seen very well. You know, asbestos fibers are small. They get in the lungs and whatever. RF is affecting people. And we're going to be having a tsunami of health claims down the road because of this. And if you read further in that same article, there was a very interesting statement, an add-on article from people who are looking and saying that corporations are hiding the truth, like the tobacco industry. They throw out doubt. Doubt is their product. They throw doubt out about scientific articles and things like that. They call people who are worried tin hatters. And, you know, they make fun of them and demean the scientists, all in an effort to keep the profit flowing in. RF is like tobacco. It's very much like the tobacco industry. And look at how many decades it's taken. And people still smoke. This tobacco is still being sold. But it took years and years and years before the health warnings were put on packages so that people could at least be made aware of it. We can't get labels on cell phones or on Wi-Fi to warn people that these things are dangerous. It's in the manuals, but how many people read their manuals?
Not if you're the average guy. You just plug something in and fiddle around with it until it works.
That's right. In fact, this week in Berkeley, California, the right to know law came into force. And Berkeley is the first place in North America where they passed a law saying that where retailers are selling cell phones, they have to have a warning that merely says that if you wear a cell phone in a bra, in a pocket, right next to your body, the chances are very high that you are exceeding the FCC guidelines. The FCC guidelines, which, by the way, are thousands of times higher than many other countries' guidelines and are millions of times higher than what independent scientists say people should be exposed to. The warnings are in the cell phone manuals, but the cell companies do not want even this innocuous little statement to be in the stores. And the cell phone company is fighting this law. So far, Berkeley has fought it successfully in the appeals court, but the cell phone company is continuing to fight it. It'll be very interesting to see if this succeeds. And I would encourage people to ask their MPs, why can't we have something similar in Canada? There are warnings in our manuals for iPads, for tablets, for cell phones. Why can't there be labels on the boxes? Why can't there be labels on the devices themselves reminding people that these things do emit radiation and that they should take precautions when they're using them? Don't carry them. Use them in airplane mode if possible. And please don't let children sleep with their cell phones under their pillows. Simple things like that, could prevent a lot of people from doing some silly things that they don't know about. They just don't know that they're putting their children and their own lives at risk.
Are there any websites people can go to find out more about the issue?
They certainly can. If they're looking for smart meter information, go to www.stopsmartmetersbc.com. And if they're looking for health issues, go to www.citizensforsafetechnology.org.
Sharon, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
It was my pleasure, Jim. Thank you.
My guest has been Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. You're listening to The Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. You can check out our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Comments or questions for the show can be sent to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on The Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.